What is going on, you guys? My name is Cody Thixton, and this is Interesting Podcast. We are coming to you guys live on June 18th, 2025 for episode 108, where today we actually have a very special guest. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is an absolute pleasure to introduce to you guys Hoochie Daddy Tayler Davis.
It's always great when the Hoochie Daddy's around, isn't
it? Oh, man, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful, sir. The sun's shining, the birds are singing. I'm a two-time champ now. It's pretty good.
That is awesome. Well, let's just start out for all the people who maybe don't know you. Maybe you can introduce your name, where you're from, and how long you've been in pro wrestling.
Well, I am the Hoochie Daddy. I know there's a lot of imitators out there, from Florida to California, but there's only one Hoochie Daddy. If anyone has an issue with it, they can take it up with me and the fanny pack. Now that that's out of the way, I've been doing professional wrestling. I just passed my 1-year anniversary of rocking and rolling on the road a couple weeks ago. Been training for about 2 years before that. And if we want to get into even more detail, I've basically been training for it my whole life. So
yeah,
you're catching Daddy on the upswing.
Oh, man. So, like, when did you actually get into professional wrestling? You had just said that you'd been technically training your entire life. When did you actually really get into pro wrestling?
So let me do some. You asked me math questions. I'd say right around 2022, I was at the tail end of my fighting career, and I started running into announcers who were pro wrestlers who had been part of the pro wrestling scene, notably G-Shock and King Naja. They actually called a couple of my fights. So a few, meetings with them at a couple fights, talking wrestling, because I was the only MMA fighter there that apparently liked pro wrestling. So we kicked it off real well. I won't remember. It was my very first fight I ever had. I won my fight. We went to the after party, and my family and friends showed up, and no one else from the show showed up from the MMA fights except for G-Shock. So we're celebrating. My face was all bleedy still. And next thing I know, we're getting margaritas or whatever high-class bourbon he likes to drink and talking crap. Next thing I know, he's chopping the hell out of me, and we're like wrestling, locking up. And I'm like, what is happening? My face is bleeding. A few more, fun interactions after that down the road. I'm meeting the Blanchard Brothers. I'm at a show. I don't remember the exact date. It was like an art house movie show that POW was doing. It was a one-off they did. And I go there, and I'm saying hi to Naja and a few of the other people I kind of know. Next thing I know, he's grabbing me and dragging me along, and I'm like, what's going on? And he introduced me to Bubba Blanchard and Jeremy Blanchard. And, yeah, it was those two. And next thing I know, I'm in the ring, and this man is holding me above his head and throwing me on the ground. And, and I'm doing the thing because I've been watching wrestling my whole life because there's a bunch of people around. Afterwards, he grabs me. He's like, well, you work the crowd, so I guess I'll teach you how to wrestle. Then I'm off to the races. Ended up at the Oregon Pro Wrestling School, being part of Ricky's program up there, one of the premier training school around here, I'd say.
Yeah.
And then, tune me up a little bit, teach me how not to murder people. Had to pull that back a lot. The next thing I know, I'm getting, Hoochie Daddies around.
Very interesting. Yeah, you had just brought up the Blanchard Brothers, and so how was that training compared to Oregon Pro Wrestling School? Like, what did they bring that maybe taught you about pro wrestling?
Well, there's a few, Ricky was trained by the Blanchards. He they had a very heavy-handed, and Ricky is growing up, but the business has evolved. It's changed over time. The Blanchards are very old school mentality. It's rough and tumble, and you're going to earn your place, and you better be able to be tough enough to stick around. Ricky is very similar, but he has a little bit more nuance with it. He gives people the time to grow and adapt to it. Whereas with the Blanchards, it was you're jumping in the deep end, and you better sink or swim real quick.
Yeah.
But I'm super grateful for both of them. Without all of them, I wouldn't be here. I've been a dream since I was a kid, and there's a handful of people I can just point out and be, I didn't meet this person, didn't meet this person, didn't make those connections early on. Who knows what would be going on now? Why would be wrestling? That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what is your favorite aspect of professional wrestling? Like, what is the one thing that draws you to it the most?
Well, for me personally, there's a million ways to answer it. Everyone has their own thing that I think they draw to it. But for me personally, I like the creativity of it. I mean, I've been a part of sports with a strict structure and rules, wrestling, MMA, the military. Uh, there's not a lot of creativity in that. And so I thought violence was violence, sports was sports, and that's the end of it. But then, every Monday or Friday or, occasional Sunday, I'm watching wrestling, and it's the same things I think I can do, but it's way more entertaining and exciting.
Mhm.
So for me, that's what really drew me into it. And what keeps me here is now I can still go back to being the berserker. I can still be, some big brawny dude, and that's the end of it. But now I get to tell stories, come up with fun, programs with people, get to entertain people. I mean, to me, I can't beat that. I mean, my niece and nephew put on wrestling shows for me every time I babysit them because they see me wrestle, they want to wrestle now. So I'm like, how could I not do this anymore? Like I'm set with this.
Very interesting. So how would you kind of like describe to people who maybe don't know exactly what is the Hoochie Daddy character?
Well, it's not a character. Let's get that. There's no character to this. This is me. This is me being able to be fully confident, fully. This is who I wanted to be when I was 12, 13, and was getting bullied and picked on. I'm not, anything crazy. I'm not out there, taking everyone's girlfriends even though they could. Your wife falls in love with me, and that's, not my fault. It's just who I am. And heck, half the guys are either jealous or still trying to talk to me. So it's been a development of just I have an outgoing personality. I become confident in myself each year. I'm growing as a person, growing as an individual, and I'm more and more confident. I feel better. I feel like I look better, and it's just getting to really be me, just cranked up all the way up. I will say it's me turned up to like sober hoochie daddy is like a 20 tequila sodas in Tayler Davis.
Interesting. Hold on one sec. I apologize. Oh,
Oh no.
okay. So what are some of your favorite wrestlers that maybe we could kind of see with you in the ring?
Oh, let's see. Obviously, Rick Rude is a huge inspiration. I mean, obviously. Um, Bob Backlund's another huge inspiration to me because of how real he was. It's I know it's a throwback. A lot of people want to gloss over, his time. I think he's still the third longest reigning WWE champion of all time, third or fourth. But he carried himself with a professionalism. He knew what he was. He could go out there and do it. If he didn't like it, tough shit. He was going to do it anyways. But I just try to model myself, take a little bit from here, take a little bit of Rick Rude swagger, some of the crazy from Ronnie Piper, it's and then put a little bit of the business professionalism on it that modern wrestling has. I think that's a good culmination of where I'm at and what draws me in and what inspires me to do this. And then
Yeah.
I'll shout out all of the Northwest and all the promotions I've been to right now. Every time I go to a show, I'm performing, I'm watching all the other wrestlers, and every single time I watch any two wrestlers go at it, or four, or 16, or a 30-man rumble, whatever it be, I'm learning something new that keeps me captivated, that draws me in, that like, oh, I didn't think of that. I could try it that way. I could adjust this. It's a nonstop game, which is my love.
Yeah.
It's been pro wrestling in America has been going on since the 1800s.
Yeah.
What else? What other thing can you look back and week by week, month by month, see the evolution, the change, and the development over time, and you can pull from any part of it and find something that's worth knowing.
Yeah. Yeah, I find that very fascinating. Something that like maybe you can understand is like I've always kind of explained that professionally cooking and professional wrestling kind of have the same lines as far as that um, professionalism and how you go about it. And you had just brought up that like you can always learn from people who maybe don't have as much experience. Like there's, you know what I mean? Like somebody can come
Absolutely.
up with something and you could be like, oh, how come I didn't think about that? And then be able to incorporate it. So like, how is that being? Is it like the same thing in the backstage locker room?
Oh, absolutely. Good ideas can come from anybody. I don't care who they are. I don't care if it's someone who's just sitting there setting up the chairs and helping set up the ring. I've had plenty of guys say, "Hey, I saw this. Maybe you could try this. It's a great idea." And I have guys who've been doing this for 25 years because obviously they're a wealth of knowledge who can adjust things. So the moment you say, "I can't learn from somebody," you might as well pack your bags and get out because you've shut down to all growth, all improvement, and you have to be humble enough to know that I think 99% of people coming to you and offering you something are doing it with good intentions. In the rest of the world, the delivery might suck. The delivery might be terrible, but the intention is usually something positive. It's the days of people trying to run you out for no reason. I don't feel like are around anymore. It's very inclusive. You know, yes, not everyone can do this. And I'll be the first one. This is not built for everyone. But it also takes, you never know who that's going to be. I've seen big jack meatheads who could kill it in a boxing ring, not last a week. And I've seen people I thought couldn't get out of their car do the most crazy things. So you can never say for sure that you know who knows what and who can do what.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, I noticed that when you made your DOA debut, that you were going up against Cole Rivera. So, like, how was it working with him in that type of environment?
Well, besides him being a massive crybaby, uh, no, Cole's great. Worked out professionally well. We match up well. We hadn't worked together before that. We never, faced off against one another. And as soon as we got in the ring, it was so great. His personality clicks off of mine. He's such a talented individual. I think he buries himself with his attitude, because he knows he's kind of better than everyone. And he is for the most part. But, Daddy has to go in and remind him that you don't get away with just that. But no, he's a great guy. I I'll shout it out to all the wrestlers. I haven't worked with anybody that I could say a bad word about. Even things that didn't go, how we wanted them to go. The people are great. All the individuals are.
Yeah. Very interesting. So how is it teaming up with Malcolm Flex as the Flex Daddies? Like, when did you both come up with that gimmick?
Oh, we've been working on it for a while. It just kind of fit together. I mean, I have the biggest arms in the Northwest, and no one has charisma or mind like Malcolm Flex does for the business. So again, as well as things where we always got along, for the last year, we've always seen each other at different shows, and like, why don't we do this? Me and you would play off real well, and if anyone watched the match, you could know we have a chemistry that's hard to be, especially for our first time working together. We've trained, we travel together all the time, but actually get in the ring and work together when it's your first time doing it, you have those jitters, you have those nerves, like, is this going to work? Are we going to connect? And it was like working with my brother, like we've been doing it for 20 years together. It just clicked right away. So I'm extremely grateful for getting to team up with him and us to go run amok and run over everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, so can you kind of like explain to people from your perspective, like, what does having chemistry as a team mean? If you could put it into your own words.
Chemistry can come in two ways, in my mind. You either naturally have it, because there's some people, you're in the elevator and you talk to someone for 5 seconds, you just know right away, I like this person, your jokes are going well. That's that instant natural, like, cool, we get it. And then there's work chemistry where it just takes time and effort to develop the relationship, develop the understanding. And sometimes you can get it with, hard work. And some guys, you just don't get it for no fault of anybody. Two people could just be so different for whatever reason, not good or bad, just different that you don't mesh up well. At least
Yeah.
for me and Flex, we have a bit of both. We work hard and train really hard to work together well. So we have that natural instant, like, ah, like without even saying anything, you just kind of know right away that I could work well with this person.
Yeah. I've had it where, like, when I've talked with other people, like, some of them, they like to really try to protect their overall character. Do you think that, like, because of how your character is, that you have more of like you can maneuver through each other wrestler and maybe not have to protect yourself as much?
Well, I think all the work I put in my own life protects me enough. I have the confidence in myself in any situation, whether I've been in it or not, to know I can power through and get through it. But I do know what you mean. Hoochie Daddy does what Hoochie Daddy wants. And some days that's being a party animal and having a great time and celebrating, having laughs, shaking babies, and kissing moms. And then other times it involves me being incredibly violent, dangerous, and occasionally hurting people. It just sort of happens. It depends on what mood I'm in that day. So
Yeah.
Hoochie Daddy, like I said, Hoochie Daddy does what Hoochie Daddy wants.
Interesting. So, how is it like conversing with maybe another person who has a really good grasp on the industry? Is there one conversation that really sticks out to you?
It would be disingenuous to say there's one conversation because there's been conversation after conversation after conversation, and I'm not going
Yeah.
to spill all the secrets I've learned because I got to have an ace in the hole, honestly. But no, I think it goes back to what we were just saying. you can learn from anybody. And as much as you put me on a camera, you put me in the ring, I'm running my mouth the whole time, and I'm going a million miles a minute. When if you want to talk to me about something, though, I will be all ears, shut my mouth, and learn and soak in whatever. But even if I disagree with 99% of what someone says, there's usually at least 1% in there that you can take away and apply to yourself. And even if there isn't, if for some crazy reason there isn't, like, cool. You still be respectful, you still be kind, polite, and professional to everyone. There's no reason to, like, oh, that person, it doesn't happen often, but we've all been in, a locker room or around people who, as soon as someone leaves, someone says something negative about the person or what they were saying. I don't subscribe to that. If you
Yeah.
can't say it to their face in the moment, you shouldn't be saying it at all. And I'll stand by that. Even if I
Yeah.
disagree, I won't say anything about anybody I met or worked with that I wouldn't say right to them behind their back.
Yeah. Is there any conversation that maybe you had with a veteran where they were kind of talking to you about the toxicity of what used to be the locker rooms?
Oh, a lot of that would be for that particular conversation. I have to go back to Mr. Oola Laa and Jeremy Blanchard because they've been around a long time.
Yeah.
A very not that they're old. We never accuse them of being old, but they've been around the block for a while, and they have they were there in the old days, the old kind of the old territory days. They were there when the Attitude Era was just starting. So there was a mindset, of you know, anyone new is a threat to me, and I need to make sure they don't stick around. Whereas that's no longer the case. It takes everybody to, move the ship forward versus only being out for yourself. I feel like a lot of people, while there is, you have to be a little selfish. You have to have a little bit of like, I'm going to get mine. If you don't have any partners, there's no one else to dance with. You're just standing on the dance floor empty, and no one's going to care.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely probably one of those things where, like they say, it takes two to tango.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I saw this clip, and you were getting like slammed into like the steel steps. So like how much
Whew.
does that suck? And like do you think that that is something that maybe DOA or POW need to kind of incorporate into their show?
I don't think I have the right, and I'll say this, the right to tell anybody how to create what they do out in the ring. I know what I like to do. I know what I like. And does it vary, show to show? Different established shows have different cultures of what the
Mhm.
fans want to see, what the performers want to do, what's to be expected. And while I think you should shake that up every once in a while and try some different things, I think especially places like POW, DOA, really have an identity with themselves that they want to project. And then when you have that, when you do something a bit more wild, a bit more extreme, or that deviates from that, it makes a bigger impact. So while I know the style I like to do, I'm not gonna go out there and tell anyone else what to do either.
Yeah.
That's part of the joy of it. We get to work, two people get to work together and develop their own story, the things they like. And that's why everything's unique. You can watch, someone wrestle the same dude 5 times, and I bet you every single time it's incredibly different.
Mhm. Hmm. Well, I saw this one post on Facebook, and I don't know if you were like you were saying thank you to Major League Wrestling. Did you like do like a something for one of their shows?
So yeah, so me and a couple of my friends went down there. It was Malcolm Flex, Derek Shaw, and Tyrell Rocket. We got an opportunity to go down there and help out at the show. So we were helping provide security without giving away too much. We got to do some stuff actually a part of the show and be out there. And I was fortunate as my medical background I have from the military and firefighting. I actually got to help out a lot of the bigger pros up there. When because we all know wrestling. Anyone who says you don't get hurt is full of crap. Everybody walks back with bumps and bruises, if not a lot worse. So I was able to
Mhm.
help out in that capacity a lot. And a lot of guys, again, I can't go out naming names, nor do I want to, but it's a really great opportunity to learn to see how a bigger show is run, especially from an independent side of someone who's new.
Yeah.
Seeing the setup, the teardown, how the behind the scenes works, how everything's laid out is a huge, great opportunity for me to go learn, and it really helps give me a better understanding of where I want to be in this business. If there's guys who stay local, wrestle at the same company once a month, and there's a local hero, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's someone chasing their dream and getting to live it out. Some of us want to keep moving up and do this as our full time job, make this our lives because we have a passion for it. And, we have the chance to. Doesn't mean
Mhm.
you're going to succeed. Doesn't mean I'm going to succeed at it. But I'm going to take the shot at it. I'm going to take every advantage of every opportunity I have to make it happen.
Interesting. So did you get to see Court Bauer at any point and like say hi to him?
I didn't get to directly.
Okay.
I know he's around, but I got to talk to lots of other cool individuals that potentially who knows what will happen down the line.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think that that's something that a lot of wrestlers, at least like from what I've seen, is that they're pretty comfortable staying in one position and just working for this local talent. Would you still be happy even if you had a lengthy career at this local level?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, my mom will tell you if the Hoochie Daddy's mama was here, she's been saying I should be a wrestler since I was like 2 years old. I love professional wrestling. This is the biggest, short of my family and my girlfriend, nothing is bringing me more joy and has, been such a positive thing for me like pro wrestling has. So yeah, I want to go on and do bigger and bigger and better things. Who doesn't want to succeed at what they love? But if, whatever reason I get to stay at POW, DOA, stay around Oregon and Washington, I'd still be happy because I'm getting to do something that's been a dream of mine since I could remember.
Yeah, interesting. So let's talk about AEW Summer Blockbuster because I saw that you were able to go to that with Mr. Oola Laa and Ghost and was it King Naja?
King Naja and several other people were there. It was a fun. We sometimes get lost as pro wrestlers because we're so a part of it. We're the ones doing these shows. You have to get to the venue. You gotta unload the truck, set up the venue. I don't want to say it takes some of the joy away from it, but it definitely puts on. It's who's behind the green curtain. Wizard of Oz style. The magic kind of gets wrapped up a little bit. So to be able to go to a big show or even another independent show where I'm not booked or not doing anything, and getting to watch and enjoy, the thing that I fell in love in originally, which is watching people professionally wrestle. It was such a great opportunity. I'm grateful for them inviting me up, and those road trips up there, riding in the car, getting to hang out with everybody, whether you're talking about anything important or talking about nothing at all, it's a fun time. It's great bonding, and it's having friends that you appreciate doing things with.
Yeah. Yeah, so how was the overall show at AEW Summer Blockbuster?
Too damn long. It was a great show. All the matches were great. Watching high level performers do awesome. It's great. 4 hours of wrestling is a long time,
Mhm.
especially when it's filmed for TV and they're performing. It's good and bad. There's no such thing as a perfect show. There's no such thing as a perfect whatever. But again, it's a look into what could potentially be in my future, and I'll take every shot of that I can to learn and grow from it.
Yeah. Yeah, is there anything that you can kinda tell us about, Mr. Oola Laa and how he, um, works PAL Pro Wrestling that maybe you enjoy that you're looking forward to continuing to work with?
Oh, he's pretty much me and him are very similar. Who you see is who you get. You
Mhm.
know, yeah, obviously when we're out there working, our characters are our characters. But again, it's just who we are exaggerated. He's an incredibly creative mind. He's such a mind and talent for the business. Even if I disagree with him on something, I can't knock the passion and the drive he has and what he's willing to sacrifice on his end to give people the best opportunities. I think he was one of the first promoters to start paying ring crew, even people who weren't on the show, just to help support people because he understands, everyone. It takes everyone to make the show happen,
Yeah.
and his commitment to that, to looking out for people from the bottom up, that's something admirable about that. And wanting to give fans, the people who want to come see us, who fall in love with us, who love our stories, respectfully put our bodies through, he wants to give back to them even more than they give him. So for me, that's the biggest takeaway is to be unselfish with this.
That is so cool. So, are there any, like, stipulation matches that you look forward to one day being able to participate in your career?
Well, I think I already had the greatest stipulation match that any wrestler in the history of the world has had, and I will hang that on my hat. When I was first couple months in the business, everyone knows the fanny pack. Everyone loves the fanny pack. The hoochie packs are going wild. Well, we had a lovely individual who stole mine and jumped me and beat me up. So we ended up having a fanny pack on a pole match. which is the most ridiculous thing. Ridiculous. It makes no sense. But it was a ton of fun. The crowd loved it. The joy that it brought people. So, do I look forward to any certain type of stipulation? I'll take anything. I love again if I'm lucky enough to be a part of something. I'm not getting into death match anytime soon. I'll tell you that. I don't. The medic in me has a hard line somewhere. But short of having a needle shoved to my cheek or glass shoved to my eye, I'm down for whatever. It's one of those things where you could say yes or no, but everyone in the business knows that when it's there, you turn it on and you can make just about anything happen.
Interesting. So is there any specific wrestler that like you think that you would be able to tell a really good story with at this moment?
Well, tomorrow I'm actually going up to the Pickles baseball game and I'm wrestling Gunnar Thorson. And I am so excited that me and him have very similar backgrounds. We have a similar intensity. Hoochie Daddy is Hoochie Daddy. I want to kick the crap out of him. But I think it'll be a fun time. It's going to be a good showing. But I've gotten very blessed to work with some very very veterans of this industry and some people on the way up. And I think what I bring to the table is I'm not Bret Hart, I'm not Shawn Michaels. I can't make anyone look great. But a few years, that's my goal. So I think you can tell a story with anybody, and I'm looking forward to working with anyone and everyone. That's the joy of this business. It's always something new and always something fresh.
Yeah.
Now, if it's
Interesting.
JD Grunge for the 50th damn time, I might throw that dude off a building. But that's here, right there.
That is so interesting. I have seen the over the last few days on Facebook there being this I guess like people that try to say that winning a championship in professional wrestling doesn't mean anything, but I know that obviously it does because of the amount of work that you guys have to put in to be able to receive that opportunity. How would you kind of describe that, like being able to win a championship in wrestling?
Well, I'll put it this way: I have two belts up there. I have one for MMA, and I have the Cowlitz County Inclusion Championship. The amount of work I put in for both is about the damn same, which was everything I had.
Yeah.
It was hours and hours at the gym of training, of effort, of mental fatigue, of struggle. So yeah, not to pick out open room of wrestling, but everyone knows what's going on in pro wrestling. We're not. This isn't 1975 anymore. But without saying too much about that, sure, yeah, people say you just get it. Does that happen in some places? Are there weird promotions that do weird things? Absolutely. But that's not what I did. I
Yeah.
grind and grind. I go out there to tell the best. I don't care if there's. I've wrestled in front of 500 people now. I've been lucky enough to, and I've wrestled in front of 5 people. I've wrestled in cool stadiums, and I've wrestled at a fairground in 102-degree heat in LA. Like, so to say, anyone who says it's handed or that it's whatever, if it's coming from someone who's a wrestler, I just don't think they care enough. And it's coming from the outside. Well, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what we put
Yeah.
ourselves through. The amount of work and effort, and just because you don't understand it, why are you trying to bring down someone else either? That goes for anything in life. If
Yeah.
something brings someone joy and happiness and it hurts no one else, why are you going to try and hurt them for that? That's
Yeah.
asinine to me.
Interesting. So how do you think the overall show with the pickles are going to go? Do you think that you guys will draw a good crowd after after the baseball match?
Oh, I think it absolutely will. I don't know the exact layout of the show, but I'm looking really forward to it. I think wrestling. I say this about pro wrestling to everyone. Everyone has a story about professional wrestling. I've yet to meet a person that I've said, "Do you know anything about pro wrestling?" and they look at me like I'm crazy. Everyone, good, bad, or otherwise, pro wrestling has been around as long as it has because people connect with it. Whether it's serious or whatever, people love it. It might be their dirty secret they keep buried in the closet of memories when they were like 4 years old or 12 years old watching it and beating up their siblings, or they could be an out and out rabid fan who wears it on his sleeve unashamedly.
Mhm.
So do I think it's going to draw? Absolutely. I mean, what's better? You have baseball, hot dogs, beer, the Hoochie Daddy, and pro wrestling. I mean, what more could have? I'll say this will be the most playful thing I say. What more could a red-blooded American want than that?
That is awesome. So what could you really tell us about the future of Hoochie Daddy? Like where do you see yourself in the future?
Well, hopefully a year from now, you're going to see me in Vegas doing those shows while WrestleMania is going on. That's the promise I made to myself. I'm going to grind my ass off to make that happen.
Mhm.
But the day in day out goal is I want to make this my full time job. And I want to be in a position where I'm lucky enough to be able to do that. It takes a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifice. I know I drive my family up the wall. They tell me to shut up about wrestling all the time. They're worried about my future, which is a perk of mine of having people that love me and care about me. But something inside of me knows this is what I'm meant to do. It's what I'm good at. It's what brings me happiness. So I don't care if I have to wrestle in front of 5 people in a church somewhere, or I get to wrestle in front of you know 80,000 people in the Pontiac Silverdome, brother. I don't care. I'm going to keep doing what I love. I'm going to keep performing. I'm going to keep doing what brings me the most happiness. So you might see me, at your local fair show. You might see me on TV, doing whatever. Who knows? All I know is I'm going to keep grinding and keep saying yes. Because the only way you open doors is by saying yes.
Yeah. Very interesting. So do you think that one thing that kind of needs to be incorporated more into this local wrestling scene is submissions?
Mm-hmm. As the master of the cross-faced chicken wing myself, only after Bob Backlund, I think MMA, and it's going to sound really ironic coming from me. MMA is one of the best and worst things that have happened to pro wrestling. Because I'll tell you this: in MMA, I was a submission guy. I preferred that. I preferred wrestling. Could I throw hands and knock people out? Absolutely. But I preferred being submission and doing jiu-jitsu. I think this could be a deep topic, a deep dive into people's attention spans. You could talk about video games or TikTok or old Disney movies, distracting. I think a lot of it comes down to people recognize they want big impacts. They can feel that. I think as a whole, people have kind of lost the fact of I can hurt you just by grabbing you and pulling on things.
Yeah.
It's really easy to imagine being headbutted in the nose or punched in the face, and we all know a chop will get a reaction anywhere you're at. You can't go anywhere without Ric Flair going on.
Mhm.
But to see the struggle of someone being submitted and the skill and technique it takes to do that in either one of these disciplines,
Yeah.
I think it's just something that the average person doesn't know enough to respect the art that goes into it. So do I think there should be more submissions? Yes. Is that what I prefer to do? Yes. But also, like I said at the top of this, podcast, everyone has a different. The fans aren't wrong for wanting what they want. They paid their money. They paid the ticket. They get a dictate they want. If they don't like seeing me, rip someone's shoulder out, cool. That's on them. They want to see people, get heart punched. Okay. Do I think it's BS? Yes. But that's not my decision to make. I'm a performer. I get to put out what I want, and the crowd and the fans have the right to tell me what they like and don't like. And it's up to us to either equalize, or I'm not going to be around, or they're not going to come back, and that's not good for anybody.
Yeah. Very interesting. Well, let's start to get into your MMA career. So, like, when did you start that, and how was that whole training process compared to pro wrestling training?
So I got out of the military in 20. I'm gonna have to do this so I can keep my dates somewhat accurate. I got out of the military at the end of 2018. I went to college at Umpqua Community College because they offered me a wrestling scholarship on top of my BA stuff, and I was happy to continue wrestling because as much as I love pro wrestling, I love amateur collegiate style wrestling just as much. I mean, I still help coach kids today about it. But we did that for 2 years. So run out of eligibility at the community level, got a job, started working, thought sports and all that was done. Well, I had a friend of mine here in town, and we were hanging out, shooting the shit, and he's like, "Dude, what are you gonna do now? Wrestling's over." I'm like, "I don't know, get a job, live life, 9 to 5, whatever." Like, well, why don't you fight? I was like, "What?" He's like, "You've been wrestling for almost 25 years. It's a waste if you just give up on that stop." So he gave me the name of this gym and the guy there. So I went there. They started training me in jiu-jitsu and boxing, and I took to that really quick. And then I could out wrestle everybody, and I was more intense than everybody. So next thing I know, they're like, "Well, have you thought about actually fighting?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, that was the point of me coming here."
Mhm.
So I could have my first fight. I think it was in 2022, something like that. I've been hitting that a lot. Dates get all blurry. But I had, we trained for my first fight. At the time, I had a partner who was into fighting as well. Birds of a feather flock together. And though we're not together anymore, I have nothing but positive things to say about them. Uh, they were on a card. I got actually before we even started dating, we got booked on the same fight card before we started dating, and then we are talking about how we had our shows, our fights coming up, and we realized like a month out that we were on the same show together. So it was natural progression in a weird way, because it sounds really weird to say I naturally found myself in an MMA cage. That's a little, but if you follow my life, it makes perfect sense. As far as the training goes, it was no different for me. I was used to, middle school, high school wrestling rooms, football practices, daily doubles, getting up at 5 a.m. to work on the farm and feed the animals and then go run. I've been beating my body senseless since I can remember. So for me, is the training hard? Absolutely. Is it different? A little bit. You have to learn different skills and different techniques. But for me, it's all hard work and effort. You get what you get. You get out of it what you put into it. And I have even if I don't want to, I have no speed except full send on anything. So as soon as MMA was done, I was sick of the weight cuts, and I had some health complications that came up, and I had proven to myself that I could do it, and I was happy with that. Then wrestling just happened to fall in my lap. So now we're off to that, and it's a little bit more sustainable because you have a little bit more control of what goes on. I'm not having to cut 40 pounds for a fight and not drink. The amount of nights I've sat on the edge of my bed looking at a glass of ice because I had it weighed out how much water I could have and wait for it to melt to have a little sip. Don't miss those days.
Interesting. So Arena Wars is here in the Pacific Northwest, correct?
Yes, it is. And they go over. They do some branch out too. I haven't been in contact with them very much lately, but I'm super grateful for that company. Without them, again, it's one of those things you never know what's going to matter in your life. Without them, I wouldn't be here now.
Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah, I know. I noticed on your first fight, it was 2 minutes and 21 seconds into round one that you actually TKO'd him. So, like, when you were on top of him, when did you know that you had him in your corner?
When the ref pulled me off, because I was so focused. So I'll tell you a little bit about my MMA career. We all know the guy at the bar or the guy at the pool party who always wants to brag about how tough he is, how he's undefeated, how he blacks out and sees red. We all know people like that. Mm-hmm. Those are the biggest idiots out there who don't know anything. They're peacocking. They're trying to bluff their way. They're trying to intimidate so they don't have anything happen.
Yeah.
99% of the people who fight, who are actually good fighters, are humble. They keep to themselves. Even on fight days, they're focused, they're quiet. They have a job to do. They get on, and I stand by that for anyone I would mentor or talk to them about fighting. However, this is a big asterisk on this. For every rule, there are exceptions. Because I was a kid, I was not very athletic. I wasn't very talented, so I had to make up for it with hard work. And when it was time to go, I had to make up for it with biting down on my tongue and raging my way through it. So every fight, you have the guys trying to be calm and fluid and loose. Yeah, that's the correct thing to do. I would tell anybody, do it that way. I was a psychopath in the back, though, getting so angry, my blood pressure was spiking. I was turning red. I'd be sweating just from how much I wanted. Like, I was not the same person. Once I weighed in for a fight, it was no longer Tayler. It was the Berserker. It was someone else. That's why, I got given that nickname. Because once I was locked in, there was, I remember walking out for a couple fights, and, just like in pro wrestling, the kids want to come shake your hand. There's no good guys or bad guys in them. It's just guys fighting, unless you get to the really high level. So the kids are coming, and I remember they'd see my face and how focused and angry. And you could see if you ever watching my fights. I was in there to play. I was in there to murder someone.
Yeah.
My mom hates when I say that. I'm like, but no, it's a sport. Like, no, I was trying to murder them.
Yeah.
Now the second the ref pulls me off, the ref can't stop the fight. The fight's over. I go right back to being me. But to be successful at what I did, I had to go into that deep, dark place that I have, and that we all have somewhere in us. Mm-hmm. I just have found a way to leverage it and being useful for me and not just being this, I'm so tough and mean.
Yeah. Yeah. So, how would you explain the cage to somebody who has maybe never stepped into an octagon? Is it just as hard as a pro wrestling ring, or is it even harder?
Actually, I'd say it's softer
Yeah, really.
because, yeah, if anyone doesn't know, pro wrestling rings are trampolines. They're not magic foam mats. They're not, these tumbling pads. It's metal, 2x4s or 4x6s, a little tiny, maybe if you're lucky, bit of like asbestos lined padding, and then a tarp over it. Boxing, most MMA rings are built with boxing. They're very similar. It just has it's padded just a little bit more for the protection because we're slamming people's heads onto it. But then the cage is a huge. This fights, my entire back was scraped up from working on the cage or moving around. So it's not that one's harder. I can say factually one has a bit more give to it, but it's 51 way, half a dozen others. They both suck like hell. If you don't
Hmm.
believe me, go find the nearest chain link fence you can, take your shirt off, and just grind your back into it for about 10 seconds. Now have someone punch you in the face while that's
Yeah.
happening.
Interesting. Yeah, I noticed when I was watching your second fight, and before you stepped into the cage, you could kind of see yourself like getting angry, like really like shaking your head and really focusing on that. Is that like all that you would think about, is just everything that would get you?
So it's funny because I don't think a lot in life
Mhm.
in general. My mom would agree with that. But no, when I was fighting, I look like I'm thinking a million things. I'm not there anymore. Like this is, fights I have to go watch them back to remember exactly what happened because I'm relying on the instincts and the training. Yes, I'm listening to my coaches. Part of me. My coaches used to say I was a great video game character because they would tell me to do something I do. I didn't think, I didn't process it. They said do this, I did it, and everything else was on me to just try to, accomplish the goal that's from you. Now that second fight, the dude made me very, very angry beforehand. And, if you watch the fight, you can see the consequences of that.
Yeah.
Just, we're fighting, it's serious. And one, make weight. Two, if you want to make a threat, I get it. There's trash talking, there's shit talking. But once it's go time, it isn't trash talking anymore. They're threats to me. And I'm going to treat them as such. Now, when the
Yeah.
bout's over, you know, uh, I really like that. I'm still friends with that guy on Facebook. You know, and we talk every once in a while. And I won't forget. The fight's over. I was coming down. I was celebrating, ready to go. And then he comes up and shakes my hand because you're always respectful. You don't actually hate the person. I don't actually want to kill them once the fight's over. In the moment, sure, but
Mhm.
once it's done, and he grabbed me by the hand, he's like, "Bro, I didn't think you were gonna take it so seriously." And I was like, at first, I was mad about. I almost got mad again. I'm like, "What do you mean? You locked ourselves in a cage, taped up our fists, and said, go beat the shit out of each other for, you know, whatever." I get what he meant though. I really thought I was going to do something with MMA, and I think if I dedicated and life circumstances didn't happen the way they had, that had to alter me from that path. I can't say for sure what would happen. So I got a pretty good track record of history of saying where it was going.
Yeah, I noticed during that fight that like he barely got very many shots in at all. Like you were able to pick him up and slam him down. Just
He threw one punch and it missed. And it's not a knock on him. That dude's it's Bryson Baker, the Biscuit Assassin. He's a great dude. He loves fighting. He'll take any fight at any opportunity. So I have nothing but respect for him. But he was not prepared for what he was walking into that day.
yeah, yeah.
I mean,
That is
it just is what it is.
yeah, very interesting. So you were able to main event for the middleweight title. I actually found the poster earlier. How was
Oh,
that kind
nice.
of seeing your face on the main card for a title?
It was surreal at first. I was shocked when they offered it to me. I was very grateful. I mean, I was happy. I haven't fought. I'm basically retired from it. I mean, I'll never say never, but I've retired from fighting. And then they let me keep this cool belt, and I'm half scared they ever mention it or bring it up. So I'm afraid to ask for it back. Not that someone can't earn it or take my title. Someone else can become the new champ. I just want to keep the belt because I want it.
Yeah.
But no, it was surreal. I was really grateful. Obviously, my family was so excited. It was kind of like confirming what I thought at the time, which is I was good at this. I had an opportunity at it. So, and then I realized, main event goes last, and I was stuck in the back waiting for every other fight. So I didn't get a fight till like 11 o'clock at night. So that's a little different. You got more time to sit with the nerves and jitters.
Yeah.
But it also brought out, the best in me too. I mean, Johnny Jackson was a great fighter. I mean, honestly, I would say he was up on me quite a bit of that fight. But I kept pushing through and relying on what got me there. Like I'm not the most technical person, even though I know a lot of technique. And if we go slow, I can show you 500 different ways to do anything. But fighting, just like pro wrestling, I think you have to have some grit and anger in you. And sometimes the best thing you can do is just do it. You
Mhm.
could sit there, finesse anything, and that's totally valid and works great for some people. I'm a bit more of a blunt object. If I hit you with a sledgehammer, it doesn't really matter where exactly I hit you with the sledgehammer.
Yeah. Hold hold on one second. I apologize.
Oh, you're
So,
fine.
like with you having like a 3-1 record, it seems like you've only been inside the octagon for like a few minutes if you add up all of the time
Yeah,
that
it's
you've
not very
actually.
long.
Yeah. So, like, do you think that if Dana White were to ever ask you to come on, would you want to fight in UFC?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'll be very, very blunt and say I'll get my ass killed right now. I'm sitting at 230 pounds right now. I'm not making a 185. Those heavyweights and light heavyweights are monsters.
Yeah.
Now, I say that mostly so people stay happy with me. But if I got the opportunity and he showed up right now with the contract and said make it happen, would I make it happen? Absolutely.
Yeah. That is
It's like
so
that.
cool.
What do they have that? They have the new slap league, whatever that a bunch of pro wrestlers are getting involved in.
Yeah,
I
I
was
saw
I, I
that.
was I was looking at that and I was actually kind of excited and thinking, well, that could be something. 'Cause I know I got a big hard head and I know I can throw a punch. And then I saw Juicy Fatu was signing up with it, and I said, hell no, that man is a monster. I don't think I can
Mhm.
knock him out with a baseball bat. So
That is so awesome. All right. Well, just to like round out everything, what does it mean to you being a performer, whether being a performer in pro wrestling or being a performer in MMA? Like, what does that mean to you as a person?
well, first it's able to be professional. I know that sounds like, especially giving, me calling myself the Hoochie Daddy or being the berserker who's this wild, crazy dude trying to kill people. Professionalism. And that doesn't just mean, when you show up, it's doing what you have to do all the time. Like,
Yeah.
you're tired and don't want to go to the gym, you still got to be a professional. You don't want to do the meet and greets or, do the little things that make you successful, that got you to where you're at. If you don't do them, you're not going to stick around very long. So, and then being a performer is realizing, above all else, we're lucky to get to do this. There's no guarantee that you get to be a pro wrestler. That pro wrestler is even a job you can do. I mean, it's an entertainment industry. So if you're not giving back to the people that are giving over their hard, I mean, I've worked really, really shitty jobs in my life, and I,
Mhm.
scraped and saved, every penny I could. But for someone who's in that position to be like, you know what, I'm gonna work this little bit extra harder so I can come to your show. You deserve to give them your all every time. I know I'm not saying go out there and kill yourself. I'm not saying be a Mick Foley or a Jeff Hardy every single show, but you deserve it to emotionally and performatively give all you have. Because again, someone is giving their money to see you.
Yeah.
So again, professional. Entertainment professionals.
All right, man. Well, I just want to thank you very much for actually sitting down with me and allowing me to just go throughout all of these questions and really know who the Hoochie Daddy Tayler Davis is.
Well, you got a part of me. I mean, you need a couple of years to get all of these get through. But I really appreciate you having me on here. I love these forums where we get to be a bit more relaxed and give people understanding to who we are. And remind people though, I'm the Hoochie Daddy. I'm still the best. I'm still the best looking. I got the biggest arms. And you should come see me.
That is so freaking awesome, man. Well, I hope you have a very, very good night, and I cannot wait to see you when you return to Independence.
I'll be there. You have to take care of yourself.
Have a good night. Well, all right, you guys. So that was Interesting's podcast interview with Tayler Davis. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, ring that notification bell so you guys get notified whenever I upload content. Make sure to go and follow me on social media at CodyT503. That's Twitter,